Hi everyone, welcome to the latest in our LinkedIn Live Leadership Series. I'm Barry Winkless, CSO of Cpl and Head of the Future of Work Institute. I'm delighted today to be joined by Mike Dolezal, Vice President of 3M's Digital Science Community in Ireland.
Hey Barry, how are you?
Mike, how are you? Lovely to
Great.
see you. It feels
Great
like
to
we were
see you.
just speaking a moment ago.
It does feel like that.
Mike, 3M, a company I massively admire and a huge pedigree in continuous innovation. I know a number of people watching this will know 3M from the now legendary Post-it note. But like for many innovative organizations, 3M have branched out across multiple products, services and technologies in multiple sectors and industries. So I wonder, could you just give us a sense of the 3M organization as it kind of stands today?
Yeah, at a very high level, we have kind of transformed ourselves over time. And really what we do is we align to market verticals, right? And so in particular, you think about the common products that you're associated with are more around the consumer area, but there's a lot of products in medical, there's a lot of products in transportation, electronics, displays. And so 3M really touches, everybody's life every day, if you will. And the interesting thing I think about 3M is not only do we have, these market-facing businesses, but we also have a corporate research organization that is central to the core of 3M and really provides the innovation engine for the company.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Mike, I know we've had a couple of conversations about your checkered career, shall we say, and you've had a very interesting kind of career path, both before 3M and then into 3M. I wonder, could you give us a sense, I suppose, of a few things? One is your career kind of journey to date before 3M, and some of the things you've learned in 3M, your journey, within 3M as a business, obviously leading now to kind of this really interesting role in the whole digital science community area.
Yeah, absolutely. My career is probably a little bit non-traditional. If you think about somebody who's leading up a software development organization, my formal training is actually as a physicist. So my career started coming out of school in the early 90s. And I was a physics major at the University of Minnesota back in the States. And I immediately joined the United States Air Force. And that was a really interesting journey. I had great fortune to be on some very interesting assignments and continue my science education. So I have a master's degree in nuclear physics, and I have a PhD in chemical physics. And so you kind of think like, wow, that's really far afield from, being in the digital sector, let's say. Yeah. But the thing that kind of ties all of that together is no matter what type of science I was doing, there was always a lot of data, and there was a lot of data to sort through. So if I was doing things computationally or if I was doing things theoretically, I always had the need to supplement with digital technology. So in the early days for me, this really meant, getting deep into engineering mathematics and writing, kind of first principles engineering code so that we could do some really complicated modeling around electromagnetic fields and chemical reactions and those sorts of things. And what it ended up translating to in my journey through the Air Force is there was a lot of sensing technologies that we would employ. And so then there was this big data problem at the time where big data was a problem because there's no compute power, right? What do you do at the edge? How do you actually transport data from the site of a sensor to the location of where you can do analytics? Because onboard processing was a nightmare with a 4048 processor or something, right? And it was really interesting, so it was fun because, kind of back in the early 90s, we sat down and we started thinking about, how do we handle this problem? And, it kind of continued up to and through, let's say Y2K, so the early 2000s. And I distinctly remember being at a conference and we have all these neural networks mapped out. We're talking about doing image processing. We're like, geez, if we could only have some compute power, that would be great. And so it was kind of interesting that, accelerate time a few years and really rapidly accelerated. So you start to see, deep learning and machine learning and artificial intelligence, and they really are building upon the mathematics that were done years ago, but scaling in a way that they've never been able to scale before, because now you have compute, now you have storage, now you have pipelines for data that you never had before. And that's super exciting. And it would be exciting to apply those to my old profession in the Air Force, but it's really exciting to apply that to problems that 3M sees not only in healthcare, but also in material science.
Mike, can I ask you a question, kind of linked to your career to date in 3M? Even within 3M, it's been kind of an interesting journey. So, what's the kind of, what's your big kind of insight, I suppose, for working with 3M? What's the big thing that you love about the company? Because I think, I know we didn't speak about this before, but I'm just kind of interested in, what keeps somebody like you, is very much a kind of transdisciplinarian, interested in an organization like 3M. What's the one thing that you kind of go, hey, you know what? This is a, I know this is a bit off script, Mike, but I am interested.
No, that's fine, because my thought is, I don't know if I can just keep it to one thing. I think one thing that's extremely interesting to me is the dynamics of the organization and how collaborative we are. So we talked about, we have business units and their market-facing verticals. We have products for, customers. But as part of the technical community in 3M, kind of the entire company is, interconnected in a way that's very organically grown. So we have an organization inside 3M called Tech Forum. This is an organization of essentially technical folks who have, for decades, put this interconnected group of people together across the world, and we kind of interact without boundaries. So if we're in an electronics and communication sort of vertical and in a healthcare vertical, we'll meet and we'll talk about technologies and we'll get ideas from each other. And that kind of collaboration and kind of boundaryless behavior has been super exciting for me. So you see people migrating amongst different businesses and products and verticals throughout their career. And so, you can really have a career in the company that feels like you've had many careers in many different companies, but it's all within 3M. So I think that's one really interesting thing, is how that technical community interacts. I think that, the principles of 3M around, customer at our core, diversity and inclusion, and really thinking about us as, an innovative engine and just, having integrity at the core of everything we do. I think that those are some fundamental things that really attract me as well. I mean, obviously coming from a military background, integrity, honesty, in communication and presentation and how you do your science is very, very important. That's, front and center and core to 3M culture as well. And that's just really been a part of my life in both in the Air Force and now in 3M. That's something I really value. And I think it's just fantastic that we have such a company.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Mike, just on that, kind of explore that kind of collaboration and that kind of deep focus on innovation a bit further. I was reading recently, and apologies if I got some of these stats wrong, 119 years in business. I think something like 55,000 products has been launched by 3M over its kind of life cycle so far, and roughly about 3,000 patents are issued to 3M kind of every year. That's a lot of innovation, and that's a lot of cross collaboration, and a lot of, kind of really interesting sparks. Can you talk to me a little bit more around, some of the strategies, the supporting processes that are put in place to enable that to happen? I know you guys have a big focus on mentoring and this idea of, 15% approach and all that kind of stuff. And obviously you mentioned about the tech forum already. Can you talk to us a little bit more around some of those kind of strategies that really drives that kind of real kind of constant innovation, I would call it?
Yeah. And again, it's something I think that you experience when you first walk in the door. And, if you're a typical technical employee and you go to your lab and you sit down and, there's always a senior mentor around. Yeah. And really there's a personal connection that you make with people. And, you start to collaborate on projects and, just like every company, hey, there's somebody new. Let's see how we can, leverage this new person and let's see what they know.
Our brains.
Exactly. And hey, they just came from school. We haven't been in school for 20 years. What's new, right? And I think it's, it's very informal the way that a lot of these things go. Now we do, of course, have formal structures. I mentioned Tech Forum. It's a self-governed organization. It's not overly formal, but we do have regular events. We have an internal communication mechanism for our technical employees so they can post, presentations and publications and information that can be consumed across the globe by all of our other technical employees. We have, annual events where we get together and we talk and we collaborate. And it's like we have these grand, kind of poster session events, at least we did prior to COVID. And we still do in a virtual sense. We have been continuing to do that so that everybody can collaborate and they can innovate together. Just this week, we have kind of a corporate-wide hackathon that we're doing. And later this afternoon, I get to be, one of the judges. And I just can't wait to see all the great things that we've come up with. So that coupled with just the, expectation that, hey, everybody is inventive. And we talk about, principles at 3M and culture. A lot of this comes from, what we call our McKnight principles. So he was the CEO for many, many years at 3M and really instilled this attitude that, every individual has something to bring to the organization. And the diversity of people and of thought and of approaches and of ideas, those are the things that really drive these organizations. So if you're overly prescriptive and if you're overly, process oriented and how you're trying to bring people together, it probably doesn't work so well as it does just organically, especially since we've been doing it for over 100 years.
Mike, let's go a little bit more focused on your own role. So, really exciting time for 3M and Ireland, I would say, as you guys are, ramping up this kind of digital science community in the country. I know it's part of the kind of broader health information systems group in 3M. So can you give us a bit of a sense of that group? And then I suppose the role that this kind of digital science community hub is going to play, within that broader division. I'd love your kind of sense on that and where you're trying to bring this hub in Ireland.
Yeah. So, in 3M, like many companies, right? So we're traditionally kind of a material science-based company. Yep. And, talked about digital tools and their interface and intersection with material science, but as we think about our customers, we really want to innovate to solve customer problems. And part of that innovation, the tools today is around digital. Well, it just so happens that it was kind of a very, unknown thing in 3M that we had this great software development arm of our company that most people were unaware of. And it was an organization that started in Salt Lake City, Utah. Our corporate headquarters is in St. Paul, Minnesota. So there's a little bit of a distance there. But, for more than 30 years, Health Information Systems has been developing software and solutions for the healthcare industry. And, if you think about the United States and their healthcare ecosystem, the payers, the providers, it's very complicated and complex, and there's a lot of moving parts. So, we intersected that trend that we needed to, digitize health information very early on in the process, right? Again, more than 30 years ago. And the great news is we've been successful over that period of time. And the difficulties, we've been that successful over a period of time, but the technology has massively changed. So we're like looking for an opportunity to continue our digital transformation, not only with respect to health information systems, but now digital transformation becomes even more important to the broader 3M. And how can we intersect both of those needs and be able to provide value across our health information systems, our broader healthcare business group, and then also broader in 3M as well. And so we had the opportunity to, take a look at strategy, to develop an idea about, hey, where would we go and where would we do this? And so, we kind of looked around the world. We looked in the United States. We looked in, different places. And we thought, wow, Ireland really came out on top. And so it's really great to be here to, take a step a little bit outside. So we're part of this, major Fortune 500 company. But at the same time, we're acting a little bit like a startup. And, we joke with each other in the office. We're like, okay, we're a startup, so it's your turn to take out the trash and that sort of thing, right? I mean, but it is, right? So it's everybody's all in, pitching in. You're at the whiteboard or now the virtual whiteboard, and you're throwing out ideas and concepts. And again, it's that collaboration, it's that culture of innovation that keeps going. And I think that's really the cool thing. And with so many recent advancements in digital technology and transitioning healthcare, especially during, the COVID pandemic to, remote care and thinking about how do we deliver medicine? How do we deliver value to our patients? How do we keep our physicians engaged and not overwhelmed? And how can we do that with some digital solutions? So those are the things that we're really hoping to affect and really roll out new technologies, new capabilities to, kind of propel ourselves into the next couple of decades.
Yeah, it's awesome. And look, like, at the end of the day, you're trying to make this work, right? In Ireland, you're trying to create this kind of highly innovative, startup mentality business. So, who are you looking for on this journey, right? So this seems to me a big mission. It's a big focus now on 3M in terms of, really kind of bring this kind of transformational, solutions to the healthcare sector. Who are the kind of people you're looking for? So, let's talk about it from two perspectives, technical competencies, what are the kind of technical skill sets you're looking for? And then also, I suppose, personal competencies, what's the kind of mindset of people you want to kind of see coming along, working with you guys, you kind of drive this mission forward, because I think that's where the rubber hits the road, right? A leader like yourself trying to make this thing work. So who do you need on your journey?
Yeah, great question. So on the technical side, it's probably, fairly obvious. So, we're on a journey to build cloud native solutions and deploy globally. So we obviously need folks that are cloud architects, cloud security architects. And, as I mentioned, security, I really want to emphasize the fact that security, compliance, those are like key central elements of everything that we do. People's personal information, their healthcare information need to be protected, and we have to develop our capabilities to be highly secure, highly available, and that's really the core of a lot of the operations that we do. But we think about people also, not just in this core, development and cloud infrastructure and that sort of thing, but there's a lot that we build on top of that, right? So we have, data that we need to analyze when we think about machine learning and data scientists and artificial intelligence applications. And a lot of our, speech recognition technology is based off of artificial intelligence and the data ecosystems behind that. And I think that's really something that we're going to continue to accelerate, continue to, push forward. And we want to, use these technologies that people can bring to bear in a very modern and very efficient sense. So what type of people have these skills? I'd say that the type of people that we're looking for, again, it's people who think of themselves as innovators, folks that can work a little bit with ambiguity, because, hey, we really want new ideas and we want to do things in different ways. So, what can you bring? People who will speak up and say, hey, I think that this is a great direction, but look at this here also. Isn't this cool, right? So, in my career at 3M, I'm not sure how many dozens and dozens of times I'm, sitting in my office, which I probably shouldn't be. I should be out in the lab all day. And somebody knocks on the door and they bring something into me and they say, look how cool this is. And just they're proud and they're excited because it's an innovation that they or their team have put together and said, I know we're doing all these other important things, but we should do this too. Yeah. Right. And that's how you get Post-it notes, and that's how you get multi-layer optical film, and that's how you get some of the flagship products, that come from 3M, is those people walking into somebody's office saying, I think you have a great idea. I think I have a better one, right? So I think that those are like fantastic types of attitudes to have.
Painted a picture now, Mike, of me in my head where I can just see you lying back on a chair, all your team doing the work for you. I say that in jest, obviously. So guys, look, Mike, if you don't mind, we're getting lots and lots of comments on our live feed here. Lots of very inspirational kind of commentary, wishing you all the best, et cetera, et cetera. And we have a few questions coming in. So we might take a couple of questions, Mike, and hopefully you'll be able to answer. These are definitely not on script. So let's really see how you can deal with the ambiguity. Right? So Mike Barr, you mentioned interacting without boundaries. That can be a challenge for some. How do you work on achieving success to maintain the boundaryless environment?
Yeah, so when I say we work without boundaries, it's like we don't try to put up any artificial barriers for people to have to jump over, right? If you have a thought or an idea and you want to call one of our most senior scientists in the company, it's completely unacceptable cultural to just pick up the phone and give one of these people a call. And it doesn't mean that you have to do that, but it's available for you to do that. And how you do your work, I've never been in an organization in 3M where there was any prescriptiveness around how you have to accomplish your job. Sure, there's guidelines and guardrails and rights, or a company, we have to protect ourselves and our clients and our customers. But how you do your job is part of who you are as a person. It's part of what makes you, unique, and that is what brings that boundaryless, behavior, right? And so it doesn't mean that everybody interacts with 1,000 other people. We have some people like that for sure, but we also have some people who are, they love being in the lab or, doing development work, and they're contributing to the organization, the team, but they do it in their own way. And so without boundaries means we're also not taking and making cookie cutters and everybody is the same, because if everybody's the same, you don't get very good results about that, right? You want to have people who feel free to be themselves, but free to interact as well. And I think that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I think about this boundaryless behavior.
That's great, Joe. Thanks for that, Mike. I think we have another question coming in here. So, Mike, you could be on here for a while. We'll stop it at this one. How's that? And Mike, can you talk to us about the thought process that went into calling your new software development function the digital science community?
Yeah, that's really good. I probably need to send this person a tenner or something. So it was very intentional. And so we came up with a lot of bad names, which I won't say what they were, not inappropriate, just they weren't very compelling. But digital science community is really intentional in that, each word really stands for something significant. Obviously, digital describes a type of work that we do, and we think about, developers and software, and, that's fairly straightforward. Science is about what 3M does, right? How do we apply a technology to a customer need and develop a capability that's useful, that has a value proposition that people are going to want to have not only today and tomorrow, but years from now as well, right? So how do we apply science and how do we drive innovation? And community for me is something that I really wanted to drive forward because, inherently, if you think about 3M as this is the inside 3M review, and if I'm I have my corporate hat on and I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota, and there's 12,000 people on campus, again, pre-COVID. But we really understood how that ecosystem interacts, especially amongst the material scientists and the process developers and that sort of thing. What we want to do is recreate that same sort of environment where people from different organizations with 3M, whether it's our IT organizations or whether it's product development or if it's in the division customer facing role, that we're all kind of rubbing elbows, at least virtually, together, and we're able to think of ourselves as really a community of inventors, a community of practitioners, and again, it's really connected to this boundaryless behavior. So we're doing great digital things. We're applying science to solve people's problems, and we really want to interact amongst ourselves as a community, as a family, if you will.
That's great. Thanks very much, Mike. So look, I'll leave it at that because I always find with these things that the questions get harder as the time goes on. I want to make sure we maintain your reputation, Mike, on this critical juncture of the development of your amazing initiative here in Ireland. So look, Mike, it's great to hear what 3M are doing here, particularly in such a critical space, I would have said, as kind of converging the dots on this whole kind of healthcare space. So with that, Mike, I'd just like to say, look, great to speak to you and great to see you again. And I think with that, yeah, what I'd like to do, Mike, though, instead of me closing off as I always do and leave my ego at the door, what's the one thing you'd like the people that are listening today, because there's quite a lot of people out there, what's the one thing you'd like them to take away about 3M? What's that thing that you just kind of like to leave with them, shall we say? We've talked a lot about lots of different things. What's the one thing you'd leave with them?
Yeah, I would say it's a company with a lot of integrity, a lot of innovative spirit, and a potential to, do a lot of great things. And how much you do is really dependent on who you are as a person. And, the collaborative nature, the interactions between people, the ease of the environment and working for 3M. I think if there's one thing to learn about the company that you don't see from the headlines or the stock ticker or that sort of thing, is how the culture really makes people feel in 3M. And I think that's the one takeaway of how great a place it is to work.
And with that, Mike, I can't say any better than that. We leave it at that. So thanks again, Mike, and great to see you. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.